Okay, I think we might be live. So this is a new stream format. I guess it's borrowed from a lot of other channels, but it's kind of a new stream format for me. I want to kind of do this, maybe not every Friday night, and maybe I'm not always going to be involved, but I'd like to kind of just do a kind of look back at what we've done in the week. And whoa, I can hear myself. Oh, that was amateur. Listening to myself. So yeah, I'd like to look back at what we've done in the week and just look at what I've done in the week and what other people have done in the week and have a little bitch about anything that we think about. So I've got Stephen Elliott here from the Scottish Amiga group. Thank you for joining and making me look too sad than the first time I counted. What I'm going to also do is I'm going to let anyone who's in the chat, who wants to watch, who's watching, who's wanted to chat, anyone who wants to join, I'll drop a link in a moment in the chat. But Stephen, what have you been up to this week? What's been happening in the retro world for you?
Put me on the spot. No, so my friend Chris, he's been looking at. Let me just find his chat here. Get 1,000,001 chats. Yeah, so he's looking at a Mister FPGA setup.
Oh,
and I'll be honest, I prefer to use original hardware, so I'm not best placed to advise on it. I think he's looking for a
I saw that in our group chat. You were asking about that. That's kind of a good one. So yeah.
So I prefer to use original hardware, but he's looking at a multi-system emulation setup. So any kind of advice that you'd be willing to kind of share on that. I think he may be watching the channel. Actually, I've shared the link to him.
Okay. So. I mean, for me, the Mister is a fantastic thing, and I've actually done a core for the Mister. I did the Archimedes core myself, and that's kind of how I got into the whole platform. And I thought at the time when I first saw the Mist, the original Mist, and then the Mister come out, I thought, fantastic, this is going to be amazing, this is going to be great. It's nothing to do with the hardware, it's to do with the experience for me. I find that, I've got this multi-cade arcade machine here, and it's got 9,000 or something games on it, and I never play it. But this guy behind I play all the time because it's got one game, it's Double Dragon. And it's that kind of thing. It's when you've got so much choice, you almost become bored from the choice. I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like you become bored from the choice.
I completely understand when you've got a multi-emulation system with thousands of games. It's not like going to the 1990s, going into Clydesdale and buying a Mega Drive game, and playing that for hours because that's all you've got. You kind of get spoiled for choice.
It's like it's like you don't have to commit to a particular game and play it. You're browsing for and you get bored from browsing. I think that's how my experience of Mister was, beyond the development of the Archimedes stuff. But but also I found that from the Mist side of things, because I was in that before Mister, it was because it really sort of made me realize how much I really loved the original hardware. And I really thank Mist for that, because I wouldn't have really realized that without it. But that's how I felt, but I also understand that if you haven't had that journey yourself, that you aren't going to understand that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Welcome to the stream, Eric.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Right, that's good, because usually on this laptop I got problems with voice. So
So for anyone who doesn't know, Arik is part of the Terriblefire project. He works on you're basically a specialist on ARM STM32 firmwares because because you're really good at it and I'm really not. So the TF MSX, most of the TF MSX, the hard bits of this project have been down to Arik, to be perfectly honest. It's the throwing us at 80 ROM and some video chips on a board. The only other thing I think was difficult was the sound, but yeah, the ARM and the sound were the two difficult bits. Everything else was pretty easy, I think. Is Arik? Oh, no, you have. I had thought you'd frozen.
Live on YouTube.
Why?
Because Stephen's got a live stream.
Yeah.
We're just talking about retro stuff.
And Stephen's getting a bollocking from Jen.
She's standing. She's just come in. She's standing at the doorway, and she's like, "What are
Jen,
you doing?"
everything in Retro World costs £50, and it all comes from Cranley.
Right.
Everything that I've bought, I got from Rob Cranley for £50.
Yeah, absolutely. Even that, even everything.
I think for car parts, when I die, do not let my wife sell them for what.
So, if you've just joined the stream, this is kind of a new format for me. I'm just gonna do this kind of maybe once a month to start with, and see how people feel about it. But I just want to get people, anyone, if you're not already, if you want to, you can join, and you're in watching live, you can actually join this. If you look at the link I've dropped it in the chat. Otherwise, we're just going to yap and chat about what we've been working on this week. I know Arik is really desperate for me to test a firmware, but unfortunately, I've not been very well this week. I had COVID for the last week. I just managed to drag my ass down here to the basement and thought, I want to do a live stream, but I don't really want to solder or do anything because my lungs aren't that good. So I thought, well, let's just try this format. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but let's just try it. And we've got Chris B, and we have CPU in the chat as well. Arik, what have you been doing this week apart from waiting for me to test a firmware?
A lot of at work, so a little bit of contingency for main medical system. So
yeah, I've
high priority stuff. So I was actually, it was good to relax on the STM firmware for a change.
I know it's a case of just plugging in 4 wires and powering it on, but I haven't had the energy to actually work out. It's mostly because my eyes are now not as good as they used to be. I now need glasses for really close-up work to read things like. I'm cursing myself because mostly because my eyes are now not as. I think my about 5-6 years ago, I was putting really small things on the silk screen and thinking that'll be fine, but now I can't actually read things I put on the silk screen myself. So yeah. Age is catching up, as it always does. So yeah. So Stephen, has that answered the question for your pal, or is that?
So
it's not.
Chris B, who is on the chat, is actually that friend. So
okay. Well, everybody's got their own journey with retro stuff. You'll get a mister, play it. And if you have a different experience, I'm thrilled for you. But that's what I thought it was for me.
I'm going to be using. So I got one of Stephen Jones' Checkmate mini cases as a prize at one of the last Scottish Amiga user group meetings, and I've pretty much just put a PC board in it at the moment. I know it's quite versatile in what you can do with it. You can put a Mister in it. You can put a Raspberry Pi. But I've just put a a small form factor PC board in it with an i7 processor. Completely undecided what I'm going to do with it yet, but it'll be some sort of multi-system emulation. And I know that goes against what I just said. I like original hardware, but when you're given something like that and you don't really know what to do with it, why not? Later down the line, I can, do something else with it. But at the moment, it's going to be a multi-platform system.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the multi-platform systems. It's my attention on them. I think I just find my personal attention on them is low. But I love that Stephen Jones case. I mean, I met Stephen Jones at Amiga 37. Super nice guy. Drives a Saab. That says everything. This is everything you need to know, to be perfectly honest. But drives a Saab. Super bloke. Gave me and Chucky a lift when we were absolutely pissed from the restaurant back to the hotel. Fantastic guy, fantastic stuff. I thought the sound coming from his monitors was brilliant. Chucky didn't. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to appeal to absolutely everyone. There's going to be people out there that won't use anything other than original hardware. But at the moment, original hardware is hard to find. And when you do find it, the price of it is going up and up. I mean, to buy a stock Amiga 1200 now, you're looking at 300 quid.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, you could pick them up for 20 quid for Gumtree, by the dozen.
Yeah.
It's difficult for someone to get into retro computing now using original hardware. It's really, really difficult. So I understand why people go down the emulation route and look at the sort of stuff that Stephen Jones provides, because it's at a price point affordable. And I mean, supported as well.
If I was getting back into the hobby now, that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't been doing any of this stuff, I would come back and say, I'd like to get back into Amiga. What would I like to do? I would either look at Mister, or I'd maybe look at something like the A500 Mini, or something like a Stephen Jones case and a multi-system. No questions. I kind of see those things as a gateway drug to the real hardware, because once you get one of them, you'll be like, oh, really? And then you'll wait. You don't necessarily need to go immediately, like spend 500 quid on eBay or whatever. You bide your time. You find the 500. So you find the 50 quid from Rob Cranley deal.
An A4000T from Rob for 50 quid.
Exactly. Speaking of A4000Ds, this one here I have on my bench. It's a Amiga by Chucky, and it's driving me mental. And my week this week has been, I've been stuck in bed, not really been able to go anywhere. My kid's been ill with COVID. I've been ill with COVID. My wife's been ill with COVID. And I've been working on the TF 4060, and this 4000 that I have is kind of like I don't want to move it. Let me see if I can move the camera over here. But it's kind of a cut. It's kind of a cut in half A4000. But it's a real 4000 board built by Chucky. But there's a fault on it that it only sees 4 meg out of the 16 meg of RAM. And it's driving me mad. That's the big mess of wire. that is my Amiga 4000 at the moment. And I've also been trying to get several things like the I have a ZZ9000, trying to get that to work with it. It wasn't working at all. And it doesn't seem to be anything to do with my card. It's to do with it's either the board or the ZZ9000, but yeah. So anyway, it's been frustrating. It's been a frustrating week. I've been trying to how I was doing it when I was sick was I've got remote access to this machine and everything. I can almost control everything in this room without having to be here. But I managed to make good progress on the 4060 this week. I need to make a little bit of progress on this. And that's my fault because I've been too lazy to flash it with Eric's new firmware. Eric, what was the problem with the firmware? You said there was some issue with Ollie's wanting in. Sorry, let me add him in.
Oh, please take your time.
Oh, geez, sorry, I was yapping away there. And...
How are you doing?
Hey, dude, how's it going? I thought you said you never wanted to be seen in public with me.
It's hardly public, is it?
Nobody's watching. Okay.
Don't mind me. I'm editing music at the moment, so I'll be half in, half out.
So we're just yapping about certain things about retro, the Mister. Eric's done a new firmware, and I've been too lazy to look at it. It's my fault. Ollie, have you had a chance to look at that firmware actually?
Actually, no, I haven't. I was working on a lot of stuff outside now. I need to look at it this weekend, actually. But, I mean, everything works for me. I'm afraid to put anything else or change anything else.
It was just one keyboard that didn't work for me. So
the keyboard was quite unusual because it had two interfaces. So one interface, it was stuck on one interface during the enumeration. So I had to find a way of just bypassing it. But that was one line fix. And it's like because it was fancy keyboard.
Yeah, I'm just using a wireless Logitech thing, and I haven't had any issues. So
sweet. So I mean, I guess this thing about the Mist kind of comes back to one of the things that you and I have chatted about a couple of times, Ollie, which is more like the MSX3 or the MSX0 or whatever you want to call it, the need for these retro fantasy platforms and how much interest there is in them, you know.
I don't see the point of an MSX3. I really don't. I mean, you know me, like that's all MSX collection, all these shelves here. Like it's quite a big MSX collection as far as, and I wouldn't want one. Like what's
you're one of the biggest MSX fans I know. So
what's the end goal?
Yeah, well, who's going to develop software for them?
Yeah,
for these platforms.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I feel kind of the same about the Spectrum Next. You know, a little bit about the same about the Vampire. Although the Vampire does kind of work in the sort of old setting as well, so you get an advantage. I have less of an issue with the Vampire than I do about something like the Spectrum Next or the MSX3.
Yeah, even your platform, like what at least like stuff like what the 8-bit guy does. I mean, you can like it or not, but he's got a following and people who like making stuff for that system and for him more so to be part of a community. But I mean, the MSX has been gone so long. Who's going to adopt that standard and why?
Yeah, I mean, Spectrum even maybe, but MSX, a lot of MSX games were bad Spectrum ports, right? From my apart from the really good Konami original.
Yeah. Well, a lot of European stuff was done on tape was MSX Spectrum ports. There was more laziness on the part of publishers than anything really.
It was just to get a tick a box. A lot of the time, it looked like.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have a lot of tapes. I have a few tapes there, but I don't mess around with tapes or tape games. Like for me, the MSX was carts. You know, that was the fun of it. Carts and floppies.
So just on the topic of tapes, the question I was asked on Sunday was around emulation of tapes and, you know, using like MP3s or WAV files of tape recordings. What is the sort of best way of emulating tape deck now using, you know, a stored audio file? Is there hardware out there that can be used, or is it best just using an old iPod or something with an output on it?
Was there not something called like a tap Reno or something like that? They could take a tap file from a Spectrum or something like that.
Yeah, I never messed around with those either. But yeah, the tape Reno was a thing for a while, wasn't it? Is it still around? I'll have a look.
I mean, that sort of thing. Or, I mean, I've literally used WAV file. I've created WAV files. I've done tap to WAV and then just played them straight out of my PC into a Spectrum or an FPGA Spectrum and loaded them in and just been literally astonished that it just works. You know, the technology is so simple. It's kind of crazy.
I suppose you're not getting any degradation. You know, you're getting a snapshot of the tape at that point.
I mean, if you think about how bad our tape decks were when we were back in the day, I mean,
the fact that it worked in the first place.
You know, you had a tape deck and you had how many times, you know, you try going up a wee bit of volume. That didn't work. Down a wee bit of volume. I mean, you probably, and once you got it going, you left it alone, but you would have to experiment so much. And then you get a new tape and that tape wouldn't work. You have to try changing the levels again. It's just really, the one thing I will say about things like the +2 is they eliminated a lot of that uncertainty in your tape deck. I think I got an old tape deck with my HX10 MSX Toshiba MSX. I've never used it. I think the only tapes I've got are the ones that Stephen here handed me when I met him in a lay-by on the way back from Ollie's. You know,
did I ever show you that Philips tape deck for the MSX that I have?
No.
It's the chunkiest yoke.
Oh my god! I have to say that there is a really nice aesthetic about that. I like that a lot.
I do like it. That's the only reason I got it. It supposedly works and all that. I never try to even work it. Like the buttons are huge on it as well.
Yeah.
No, that's one reviewing quite happily.
Yeah.
That's somewhere.
There's a wee speaker here as well, like in case you missed Steve.
Yeah, I had a Spectrum +2, and we used to swap tapes with friends, and we'd copy them onto a C90 or a D90 tape, you know, and you would write down the counter times, but then your counter broke, so it was a mystery as to what game you were loading, you know, and it wasn't exactly the quickest thing ever. You know, 10 minutes to load a game, you don't know what it was. Until the splash screen appeared, you know.
But this kind of comes back to what I was talking about earlier, right? You've invested 10 minutes of your time, and it could be the shittest game that was ever written, but you were going to get 20 minutes of gameplay out of it, right?
Because, you know, whereas now, you know, even, what is it, an EverDrive cartridge, they call them, for the Mega Drive. You just reboot the thing and play the next game. You've got every Mega Drive game ever made on an SD card. You're spoiled for choice.
You had to justify that noise to your parents as well. You couldn't just change the game right away. Like
exactly. Are you loading another game? What?
And the subject came up recently about pricing of games back in the 90s. So people complain about the cost of a new Nintendo Switch game, right? A Nintendo Switch game now is what, £45-50? Now,
60.
Yeah, a Mega Drive game, you know, in the 90s was £60 then, right? Now, adjusted for inflation, that's about £100 for a game.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, when you think about it, kids are getting a bargain.
I watched a video with Andrew. Is it Andrew Hutchings or Andrew Hutchinson or something? He was the guy who did Starfighter 3000 on the Archimedes, and they were charging 25 quid for that game in the early 90s, and he said basically adjusted for inflation that was 60 pounds today. And yeah, I mean, games are still about that price, right? They haven't really changed price in 20, 30 years. Really, they've stayed somewhere between £20 and £40, except for you obviously had the budget games where you went in, you bought a game for $2.99, you took it home, and you had like you say, you had no idea what you were going to get. But was what it was. Oh, so John Husky is asking, where's Chucky? Chucky just pinged me and said he's stuck in a hotel somewhere near. He's stuck in a hotel. He's not joining tonight, but we might get him another night.
He's building TFMSX.
Yeah, he's building TFMSXs. For those of you who don't know, I kind of got John drunk at revision and said, would you do some TFMSXs? She's like, yeah. So I said, you said you would do TFMSXs yesterday. Did I? Well, I'll do 10, he said, or I'll do 8 or something. Yeah, he is going to do. You see, there he is. He's on the chat. There. He's going to do all the TFMSXs anybody ever wants. We all know the joke about John. If you're watching, I know you are watching. This is your life. This is your future right here. And this is really.
I used the converter from the price back in 1988, and the equivalent in euros for now. But yeah, 80 euros or thereabout pounds was the price of Vampire Killer on the MSX. Like if you convert with inflation and from old francs to
80 euros.
80 euros.
Wow.
So that's what in pounds.
I mean, that's pretty much what you pay for it now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You went to buy it now, In
fact, it's probably cheaper games nowadays than 70 euros is about the norm. What's that in pounds and sterling?
So John,
£69, yeah.
Okay. But Vampire Killer is such a good game. It's such a good game.
I know, but that's what you were saying earlier, Stephen. Like the prices nowadays are not. It's not more expensive now. It's already in this kind of steady price. Technology in general. Yeah.
But volumes do rise. They sell much more these days.
Of course.
They used
So they sold more, but they're probably got lower margins now on each one. But yeah. But it is such a good game. It is one of my favorite games. I'm going to get it in one of the cabs here at some point.
So I've started buying big box games of, when you buy an Amiga and you go to the bars and you get a selection of games for a tenner. I've started buying big box versions of games that I really like and played a lot of, invested a lot of time in the 90s.
Frontier, I must have put. Yeah. No,
really nice condition. I usually look for people that are selling, looking to sell a collection of, and not quite happy to send photographs of the boxes and stuff. So this is really nice. This has got all the inserts and I'm not usually as pedantic when it comes to these type of things, but to get all the other inserts and everything's really, really nice. So yeah, don't actually know if the discs work, but
that's irrelevant, really, isn't it? It's the physical copy, having it in your hand, and actually, one of the things I've come to appreciate from having it really was the arcade machines that really hammered this home was the smells. The smells are a huge part of the retro.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the smells you get in the arcade machines are not good, right?
Cigarettes and disappointed parents.
But some of them are like, whoa, yeah, whoa! It's just like a pure nostalgia. You can't get that from a Mist or a Mister. No. You just can't. You get that from an old machine. You know,
the smell of
yeah,
leaking capacitors.
Yeah.
Fishy capacitors. Yeah, that's not a good smell either. But yeah.
Those cabs have a specific smell to them, like of whatever chemicals was in there to prevent insects from.
My GCHQ has got the kind of a quintessential Lynx Java smell about it, and it's just I don't know what it is. It just smells like somebody's been spraying Lynx Java, and you don't get that anymore.
If I don't go to the arcade room for a while, because you've seen it's a tiny room and it's well insulated. So whenever I go there, like if I haven't been there for a week or two, you get that smell again of whatever is in the wood, like preservers in the wood. The sort of arcade smell.
Yeah,
that was a magic tree. Used to be able to suggest a magic tree fragrance. They should have 80s arcade cabinet as a fragrance choice.
But you're right. I think that it's something like there's a lot more to just the hardware when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So like, even like I like emulation. As you know, like I put a lot of emulators now in my machines because I'm sick of repairing the PCBs. But like something like the Mister, where you don't need to load the tape or load the floppies or the carts or whatever. I mean, as cool as it is, I think it's kind of missing something. That's why I do like your solution of using CPLD and an ARM for USB and CPLD for glue logic, like, and still use the cards and the original hardware. It's cool, like it retains some of that ritualistic side of things.
I mean, I never want to knock the Mist or the Mister or anything like that, but. And I would, if I have 4 Chase HQ boards. If they all died, they all were completely unrepairable, I would put a Mist in there and run my Chase HQ off a Mist. Absolutely. No questions, no problems. Don't have a problem with that. But it would be my last resort. I wouldn't want to, but again, the Mist isn't the experience then, but I would have it tied so that it would boot that. Would be Chase HQ off the Mist. It wouldn't. I wouldn't want to have a menu. I wouldn't want to have I don't like having that choice when you boot up. Oh, what game am I going to play? I wanted to boot exactly into the game, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's an expensive solution for a dedicated game. Like if you've paid over the odds for a Mister board and then all the add-ons to be able to run JAMA on it and RGB, it's a pricey kit for one game,
Yeah,
mind you, PCBs are heading that way anyway. I don't know the price of a Chase HQ PCB, but Outrun is good nuts still.
I think I was getting them. I got one there that was needing a tiny bit of repair for about $100. So actually, I think I hoovered up all the Chase HQs. But in true Terriblefire form, as soon as I get into something, it gets expensive. So it's probably a lot more expensive now than it used to be. Speaking of which, how are you getting on with that? I mean, I know it's on your channel and you don't want to give too much away, but are you actually getting anything done on the Chase HQ, or are you still just...
Oh, no, I'll do that when I come back from holidays in June. I'll start that. I've moved it in position.
It's in the queue. It's now top of the queue.
Yeah, every time I go in the shed, it's there looking at me. So, I'm going, okay, I'll do this. That's how I start psyching myself into a project.
Yeah, I understand. So you'll be looking at it and going, well, I need to order the artwork. I need to order, because I'm working on the Sega at the moment, and I'm like, I need to order some paint. I need to order some clear coat. I need to order this, that, and
I'm finishing the Skull Race anyway at the moment. It's nearly there. I mean, I've ordered now. I've ordered the art, which is the last thing that goes on. I just found out that the marquee. I finished the welding of the like putting the two marquees together into one. So I finished the welding part, and it's clear coated now, so it's coming back together. But I just discovered that the bulbs on it are E19, E17, which is a US size. In Europe and UK, we use E14 for the smaller ones, the screw, or E27. So I need
they're like these push fit ones that you get on cars.
No, they're the standard screw bulbs, but the actual base is a bit wider. It's between our wide ones and our small ones in Europe, UK. So it's E17.
Right.
We use E19 and E27 here. So I can get adapters, but they'll be coming from China. Or order bulbs from the US every time one goes off, which is no.
Oh man! But that's the scud race pretty much sorted out now. So
yeah. It's running anyway. Like it's fully functional now. The force feedback is working on Outrun.
I have.
I don't even need the PC now or the mouse and keyboard.
I have mixed feelings about getting the Sega Rally up and running, because if I put it in place and get it running, I'll never want to move it because it's so heavy. I mean, you have to dismantle it to move it, basically. So
yeah. That's why I start with the cosmetics first.
Yeah, on this one, I'm definitely going to get all the cosmetics sorted out because I don't want to move it. And then we'll go in here with the chaos once that's all sorted out. Hopefully, that's going to get
the danger when you have a working cab. The danger is when it's functional, you're not going to touch it anymore. You're going to just play it and leave it as is. So if it's not finished, it's never going to be finished by the time it's functional. So I start with the cosmetics, and then once I'm happy with the state of the cab itself, I look at the electronics and the monitor.
I don't think there was only one cab here that I'm not happy with the state of the outside of, and that's the Operation Wolf. And that's the one we were talking about, maybe swapping.
I have to do a bit of work on my power drift, though.
No, you leave that alone. That's mine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, do you want to? Like, I couldn't get it to work, and give you a working cab or a project cab if you prefer.
I mean, basically, okay. Well, you're just a woman. You wanted to get the power drift working enough, so I'll come get the power drift. That's basically your plan. So. At the moment, the Operation Wolf is so much more ahead of the power drift. But you have to come for the Operation Wolf. So, well, okay, I can make whatever way around we want to do it. So, Stephen, what's your latest acquisition that you're allowed to talk about in front of Jen?
I haven't actually bought anything recently. I got myself a new laptop, but that's no retro. I was looking at a Lethal Enforcers cab on eBay. It sold the other day, but it was collection only, and it was in Upminster, and just
it's a while. Yeah.
And it's
a fairly
not
easy
that.
drive.
I've got a couple of fruit machines upstairs, and it's just, at what point does the floor give way?
Never. It never does.
No, I mean, I was looking at that. I think I shared in the group chat the CD TV that I'd been looking at, and I did put in a bid, and it was a guy in he was in sort of Livingston, kind of heading over to the East Coast, and I did put in a bid, but I lost out. I was about £100 under. That would have been nice. I have no idea what I would do with a CD TV, but just I would always like one. And I was actually chatting with the guy that runs the Brisbane Amiga Club in Australia, Mark Falconer. We're talking about, you know, what's on our want list, what we would really like, and you know, mine would be the FMV module for the CD32, but I have absolutely no purpose other than just to say I've got it, you know.
I always, whenever we do meetups at the Scottish Amiga group, I'm there, I always put my FMV module on. I always play Airplane. I always put Airplane on. It's my favorite film, and it's just surely you can't be serious. You know,
the only thing I would use it for is to play. I've got the Philips CDI version, well, video CD of Planes, Trains and Automobiles, which is one of my favourite films for the 80s, and I think that's the only reason I would use it. And also have the music video CD of Beautiful South, Carry On Up the Charts. I think that's really the only two things I would use it for. And to pay, I mean, what would you be paying for an FMV module for a CD32 now? 400 quid?
I got mine free. I don't know.
Well, when I get mine, I'll have got it for Rob.
I saw one that Johnny got. Johnny pinged me an email one morning saying, "This one's broken. What's wrong with it?" You know, and I pinged Super Duper Mark Brown from the Terriblefire guys, and I said, "Do you know what's wrong with this?" And Mark Brown bought it there and then, buy it now, fixed it, and gave it to Johnny for the same buy it now price.
Really?
Yeah, it was about £200.
Wow.
Johnny
still got it?
I think he does, yeah. Johnny does have it.
I think we need to get him drunk.
No, we don't.
In fact, that's a good point. So Johnny and I and Rob and Graham are going to kickstart, and we're debating who's sharing rooms. If he's still got that FMV module.
Yeah. Go for it. But remember, he's a doctor. And he can outdrink Rob Cranley.
Some going, isn't it?
Yeah. Whoop. Welcome, Rennie.
I hope he's watching.
Hey.
Rennie, this is Ollie, Stephen, Eric.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Rennie.
We were having a chat. I can't remember what we were chatting about. We were chatting about actually that just what's on everybody's radar? What's on their wanted list? What's the thing that they're craving? I'll go with Rennie. What's on your retro radar? What's top of your hit list? What would you buy it now if it turned up on eBay?
You know, I've always been itching for a real good X68000 system, and those are hard to get here because they're dirt cheap in Japan, but they're not easy to get here.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same in the UK.
Actually, yeah. That'd be mine too. Yeah, I'd love one of those.
Yeah. The arcade ports on it are just so spot on. They really put a lot of love into the games on that. It's to me the Neo Geo with a keyboard.
It's the only system that has, aside from the MSX, that has Nemesis 2 on it, and it's a great version of it as well.
Yeah, I love my shooters and my JRPGs, and it's like all there.
I went down to Neil's cave back in February with my boy, and we were wandering around, and Neil and I were having a chat, and he said, "So, Stephen, you know, in that smooth way that Neil does, what is it that catches your eye? What is it that you would what is it that you covet? And there was two things that he had in his whole space that did it for me. One of them was the Roland MT32, and I was just in love with the sound that thing made. And the other one was the X68000. It was just, yeah, I could have sat and played that all day.
Yeah, you got one of them now.
I do have the MT32, but I don't have the money for the X68000 because they're just unobtainium here. I mean, they're thousands of pounds. They're thousands of pounds.
Yeah, I've seen them for about $700-800 if you bought them in Japan, but I wouldn't even know where to start to try and proxy them here.
Did I show you that thing, Stephen?
Oh, what's that?
It's a SC sound canvas. Sorry, MT 120.
So it's basically MT32, but plus version of it.
It's a similar sound canvas. Actually, MT doesn't sound for the same stuff as the MT32, but it's actually more for learning music. But you put floppies in it with MIDI files on it.
Huh?
Anyway, sorry.
Vampire is saying stop showing off. Yeah. So, Arik, what about you? What are you after? What's your top of your hit list?
I guess I would like to build Amiga 4000 motherboard from scratch. That's still possible. So it's just finding time to organize this, and parts are not cheap either.
We have a dealer for that. You know, we know who. We know a man.
What who?
And we already know that Stephen wants the FMV module for the CD32. I mean, I could lend you mine. You can have mine for. I mean, if that would scratch your itch and get you over it, you can borrow mine.
I think it's a matter of building it. It's what really I would like to do rather than owning it.
Yeah. So when I was at Revision this year, Truck, the demo senior guy, offered me a couple of things. A couple of things to buy, but a couple of things to look after. One of them to buy was an A3000 tower, which I was like, whoa. And not that I'm really that fussed about an Amiga 3000 tower, but it's an Amiga 3000 tower, right? They're just so rare. But also, and Ollie, you'll get this, a sit-down power drift, which was that one. I don't know how I'm going to... I mean, I can sneak an Amiga 3000 tower past my wife. She will not notice that. She will definitely notice a power drift sit-down. They're about the size of a car. So...
Have you gone anywhere with that at all there?
Yeah, I mean, no, not yet. But we were chatting about it, and you know, until it happens, it hasn't happened. So I also need to make sure I'm getting rid of. I need to move the Sega Rally out of the garage before I bring in another full sit-down cab. You know, I'm gonna really
wise move.
You have 3 sit-down cabs, so. They're all almost exactly the same as well. So,
yeah. I have about 6 shed though.
Yeah, I have 6 rooms in the basement, but she can check them quicker than your Fiona can check your sheds. So, yeah. So, Renee, how's development been going this week on your retro project?
Oh, not too bad. Being back and forth with Kipper, we're working on the various dip boards right now. We lost some boards through Canada Customs and had to track down where they got lost to. So that was always fun. We're doing a lot of our boards through JLC. I've basically come to the conclusion that anything smaller than 0.8 millimeter BGA is just not doable at the hobbyist level by anyone. They just don't allow that kind of tight routing at like the 0.65 and 0.5. It's just they just don't do it. So
I think there was a level of BGA that I decided I wouldn't go to, because even if I could do it, or I could learn to do it, it would be a support nightmare, because you'd need like X-ray vision to see that it worked.
Yeah, and it like a drill is off like nothing, and it destroys it, right? It's incredibly fragile. It's the kind of stuff that, leave that to the Apples and those guys of the world. We're still playing around with Agnes as well, trying to figure out the best option for that. Of course, the biggest hang up there is the stupid PLCC socket and having to deal with that. We tried some edge plating designs and trying to get them to route those perfectly straight so that they sit properly is next to impossible. So that's been fun. And the microchip for Buffy is back in stock. So I actually ordered some new ones for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah.
Had to drop a big chunk of coin on it, though. $3,000 to get 10 done.
Ouch.
Yeah, prices have just, anything that's still in demand right now, prices have just gone bonkers, right?
So Arik and I were having the same discussion earlier in the week, or earlier, was it last week? The STM32 chip we used for the keyboard controller on this guy. I mean, 4 weeks ago, I could get them for £5 each, less than that. Yeah. Now they're on Optinium again, completely on Optinium.
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice, right? Like you'll see like 20 show up, and it's like, oh great, I'm going to order some more Monday. Do not wait till Monday. You wait till Monday and they're gone. Or $100 a chip.
But Arik has found. Did you spotted that we have a possible viable alternative with a Chinese clone, basically?
Yeah, there is Chinese clone, but it's I would need to start firmware from scratch, which would be at least a month. I would guess, just to write the USB stack again, and this kind of stuff. So I would like to
avoid that one.
This if I could, but it's like if STM won't be able to deliver those chips anytime soon, then it's like I will not have any other choice really.
But how else are you going to get to play Vampire Killer?
But I basically, I don't know, I think I spent like a year chasing dragons with this project, right? It's like, oh, well, here's another potential replacement chip. Maybe I'll use that, and then I'll start designing it in CAD, and 2 weeks later, when I'm almost ready to order, they're gone again. Companies more agile than me were way ahead of that curve, so it was pretty frustrating. So, but it's nice seeing they're back in stock, even if it's $160 a chip. That's the big cost of that board. We're definitely not going to be meeting our original MSRP we were thinking of.
Ouch.
Not for any length of time, anyways. I'm sure this is going to normalize soon. Knock on wood.
The cycles seem to be getting shorter, if that makes any sense. It's like in and out of stock. It used to be out of stock for months, in stock for a little bit, out of stock for months. Now it's in stock for weeks, out of stock for weeks, in stock for a week, out of stock for weeks.
Yeah.
It's getting that cycle's getting shorter. So
yeah, this hasn't been in stock since April of 2019. So
wow,
that's how long this project's kind of been on pause for.
Wow. When I went to revision, I was I always go and I always wander over whenever I can and have a chat to Jens Schofield, and just shoot the breeze with him. But and actually, he's a nice enough guy. He's just my competition. So, but he was moaning that my chips is expensive and this chip is expensive that I'm using. I'm like, but you know what? The chips that these Xilinx chips, we've been able to get them all through the pandemic. They might have been expensive or whatever, but we've been able to get them all the way through the pandemic.
Yeah.
The prices might have gone up or down or whatever, but we've been able to get them. So I'm sticking with them because I think they kind of do the job. And Chucky might have been able to get them at one point for a really low price, and now they're probably the cheap source is about the same as the original suppliers used to be. But yeah, we've been able to get. Yeah,
I think Xilinx kind of has the best tools out there.
I agree, but I don't like their tools.
Fair enough.
I think if that's the best, then we're in deep doo-doo. But yeah.
But we are.
I've been using the Yosis toolchain, and I've been hitting my head off the desk for the last month on the 4060.
Well, I was looking in hindsight, looking back, and it's like those ICE 40 chips have been pretty consistently stable on the market. They're great little FPGAs. They're the only 5-volt tolerant FPGAs really out there anymore. So they're great parts, but my God, their software's just abominable. It's so difficult to work with.
Completely.
Its tool chain makes no sense. It doesn't follow what any other software does.
I think a lot of this stuff is so for the ICE 40 stuff, it was the original company that developed it got bought up by Lattice, and they fired all the developers. So yeah, I think that's basically what happened, unfortunately.
Yeah. And for some reason, they retroactively the conspiracy theory part of it is that they retroactively removed all reference to the 5-volt tolerance, which was kind of the original big selling feature of the ICE 65 when it first came out.
I actually didn't know the ICE 40 is 5-volt tolerant. I didn't think it was. I've got buffers on it to stop it being blown up.
Yeah, and most people have. And there's a big EE forum where they actually hooked it up and dropped 20 volts on the pin and found that it was holding at about 6.5. So 6.5 volts was the tolerance. So that's squarely in the 5.5 volt range. They figured that it uses the same, instead of using protection diodes, it has, and I this is a little bit out of my knowledge scope, but a MOSFET configured in avalanche configuration on the pin. And that the ICE 65 had that design in the first batch of ICE 40s, the ICE 40 HX, were direct die shrinks of the ICE 65. So those, there may be other ones. Nobody's tested beyond the HX, but the HX line are the original ICE 40s. And they retain the 5-volt tolerance of the ICE 65s.
So I'll be honest. What happened with the ICE 40 for me was one of my friends who lives here in Glasgow. I went to university with him. He's been doing ICE 40 things. He did an ICE 40 plugin for the Novena laptop, which is, I mean, it's just, and it's all published on his blog and stuff. And I have access to him, so I can go and pester him if he is I thought, I've got a resident expert here locally, so I can go and annoy him and buy him a cup of tea or whatever. He said this FPGA exists and it's low startup. You don't need that many voltages because sometimes when you have to do FPGAs, you've got to have a 3 volt, 3.3 volt. You've got to have a 2.5, a 1.8, a 1.25, a 1.1. This was like 2 voltages I needed. So I was like, right, okay, I can live with that. And he's got experience with it. He says this toolchain's good. We went with it and we got it going. And as Chucky's saying in the comments, he's trolling me. Ice 40s, the tools are the best. Yeah. I've been absolutely hitting my head off the deck with these things for the last month. But I managed to get most of the way there with them. And I mean, I've had some serious, I'll be honest, I've had serious hissy fits with John and Alan Marks from Quebec. I was saying, I'm done with the Ice 40. I'm throw your Ice 40s in the bin. I literally said to them, I'm done with them. I'm switching back to Xilinx. I've had enough. But I just, every time I have a hissy fit, I calm down and I just do a bit more work, try and get a bit further, and I do get a bit further. I'm still having hissy fits on a daily basis with the 4060s, but every time I do, I seem to make it. Every time I have that absolute hissy fit, I seem to make a bit more progress. Yeah, so that's the story of the Ice 40. I really wish I hadn't committed to it, but I'm in too deep now, and I've got to keep going. Basically,
You sold your soul.
I sold my soul to Lattice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ollie, what are you working on? Are you working on anything interesting? Just a cover mixing?
Yeah, I'm mixing at the moment. Sorry. Okay, I hope you can't hear what I'm doing.
No, I can hear Rennie listening to the Star Wars thing in the guitar, but that.
Oh, I turned that down to like 1%. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
No, essentially, I'm just waiting for the copyright strike. To be honest. Yeah.
Castlevania cover.
Oh, okay. I mean, so my last video that I put out the other week got more views than I've ever had on a video on the channel, and it was that's all down to that silly intro with me and Ollie, I think.
No, it's only I think people are happy to see your updates.
Well, yeah, but they don't usually jump.
Yeah, but they don't. The fact that they clicked on the video, they don't know that the intro is there. So it's people who have clicked on the video in the first place.
It's people who've re-watching the intro over and over and over. That's what it is.
I think that's just you.
Oh, I do like it, but yeah, I don't have time for 2,000 views. So yeah, no, that one went well. I had people going. The intro was good, but the rest of it was shite. I literally had a comment saying that. Gee, thanks.
Was it Rob?
No, it wasn't Rob.
Can we talk about this?
Oh, talk about this. Talk about that.
What is it?
I love that. That is.
This is the Kickstarter tank mouse. I don't know if you can see it from my background here, but
yeah,
they done a Kickstarter last year for a new wireless tank mouse, and it's getting good feedback, but there is a bit mixed about the hardware and the drivers, and I haven't used it on an Amiga yet. I've used it on my computer, and I think it's great. Just reproduction tank mouse. So it uses Bluetooth. There's a little switch on the bottom, and you get a Bluetooth receiver inside it there. But it will connect to your Bluetooth on like your laptop or whatever.
So how I use it is I plug that. I've got the Amiga adapter, and I have that Amiga adapter plugged into my Amiga, and I have my Mac set up to work with it Bluetooth. So I literally can switch the switch on the bottom of that mouse, switch it to my Mac, and if I switch it the other way, it goes to my Amiga.
Okay.
So I actually think it's fucking fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. My only complaint with it is it's slightly too light.
Yeah, that is quite compared to an original tank mouse, it is quite light. So for those that don't know, it's got a hidden in the middle there. It's got a hidden scroll sensor. So you've got your left and right click, but you've also got the ability to scroll as well. Mixed feedback on the scroll itself, battery life. I've not used it enough to just to feedback on it, but some people are saying that the battery on it's terrible. It drains the battery quite quick.
Mine. When did we get ours? How long have we had it?
Fortnight, 3 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
So my battery, I changed my batteries today. So
okay.
So 2 weeks. I got 2 weeks out of the batteries, and I haven't switched it off.
In terms of build, I mean, it feels like a proper tank mouse. It doesn't feel. I mean, compared to a modern mouse, it's bloody agony. But it's, it's in keeping with the retro. But yeah, I wish I'd got a black one as well, because obviously after I backed the Kickstarter, my intention was always to use it with the Amiga. But since I've backed this, I got the Checkmate case, which is black, and I made my Amiga 1200 Black Edition, which I've obviously showed to the group. So it would have been nice to have a black one. I don't know if they've actually started selling them yet, retail. And if they have, I don't know what the price is.
I got the black one to match my black 1200.
Yeah.
That was just. I mean, I just picked a color. To be honest, that was it. But
I will say that when they were doing the sort of research into it, they sent out. Is it Lucas, the guy's name that developed it?
Yeah.
He sent out some RAL charts with different color choices, and I will say that it's a good match to the original.
Oh yeah, the color's spot on.
Yeah. I wish I had brought my original tank mouse downstairs with me to compare the two, but
and best of all, didn't take 5 years to turn up.
Easy now.
I'm still waiting on some of that.
And apparently, I'm such a bad guy talking about. I mean, I'm going to address this right now, because I've made no buts and bones about the fact that I'm going to call out Amiga A1200.net for not delivering what they promised people, and that's it. When they have delivered, credit where credit's due. When they have actually done it, it's been good. There was a point at which I had 30 people messaging me saying within like 3 days, and Rennie, you were one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stephen, you were one of them as well. Actually, I had 30 odd people telling me that they had what they were promised, and they were getting the runaround from someone who had their money, and it's like, that's just doesn't sit right with me. You either give them the money back, fine, or or you make things right. But I ended up sitting next to Marcel from A1200.net, right in front of Dave Haney at A37 on the first night when we all turned up. We were having beers. I didn't know who Marcel was, and he said, "Oh, he said you and I need to have a chat." And I was like, "Oh, have we fallen out?" And he explained who he was, and I was like, "Well, I can't have a fight with you in front of Dave Haney. I just cannot have a fight with you. I cannot have a frank and honest conversation here." So I was just fairly okay, whatever. Ollie well, you all know me. I'm not usually backward in coming forward. It's like I speak my mind, but I wasn't going to have a proper argument with anybody in front of Dave Haney. But I do think that these guys have underestimated how upset their customers are. And I'll leave it at that. And I have occasionally had digs at them all over the place.
They definitely underestimated how hard manufacturing is when you don't know how to do manufacturing. They thought they'd just take the molds from the case and do that, and then everything that went fairly smooth, right? The original A1200 cases went fairly smooth. I think
the keycaps, the number of permutations for an error dramatically goes up because you've got so many more items being manufactured, basically.
Yeah, and some really big keys on the Amiga keyboard, like the spacebar and the big L enter for US keys. Those are hard molds to make properly. Still, it's an absurd amount of time it's taken them.
5 years, and I think I managed to make Phil go completely crazy on Amiga Bill's stream by asking if it was, because he was talking about the bundle where you buy a case and some keys, and the bundles are going to be available on our website next week or something. And I just flip it. I mean, I may have had a few drinks. No. And I may have flippantly suggested that there would be a 5-year wait on the bundle. And Phil went mental on Amiga Bill's channel. He went properly mental. He started properly ranting. And he was live on Amiga Bill, and he started ranting about me, about how bad I am, and because you all know how bad I am, right? I mean, you all know, right?
No, but like there's a way to say things, obviously, but ultimately you can't take money for a product you don't have or you can't deliver. That's what it comes down to. Like I know they're probably working very hard, and I understand it's complicated. But if you don't have the product, you don't have the product.
If you don't have the product, and somebody wants their money back,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's like in 90 days. That's one thing. After 5 years, that's a different.
Yeah.
Fish, it's. However, I don't think I know anybody now at this point that has ordered something who hasn't had at least one of the things that they ordered. I think there are people still waiting. Like they may have ordered three different key sets. They'll at least have had one of those three key sets.
Yeah, I got my 1200 case, and I got the black keycaps so far. So, I
again, everything that they've produced is good. There's not the quality of what they're producing is not bad. They're doing, when they deliver good. It's just, I think I would, if somebody had been asking me for their money back, I would have been giving them their money back. And I think the thing that I found the most weird, I don't even know how to put it, the thing that seemed the most jarring, wrong, whatever, was that they hadn't delivered. They had this first Kickstarter going for X amount of years, and then they asked for a second round of Kickstarter, and that just had a bit of a Ponzi feel about it, because you're doing this thing and hasn't delivered yet. Finish that before you start going out to market and asking for another injection of money to do another thing. That's just my personal take on it. It was just an appearance.
In the second campaign to pay for the first one.
There was definitely a good look. It doesn't really matter whether they were actually doing that or not. It definitely had the appearance of that, and that's. Anyway, this is what I wanted this channel, this kind of channel format to be about. It was just basically being a bitch fest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in total agreement with Renee around the quality. The quality of the product's been brilliant. The keycaps, and in my opinion, the keycaps are excellent quality.
Oh, they're the best. They're absolutely the best keycaps because I have the ones that Stephen Jones made as well.
Yeah, so I got a set of those with the Checkmate mini case. Haven't used them yet, but I mean, quality-wise, excellent.
Yeah.
That actually brings a good question. I've got that set of cherry compatible keycaps that came with that Checkmate mini case. Looking at the key set, it's the American key format. So in a UK keyboard, it's got the kind of bigger enter key. In a US keyboard, it's split. So what would you recommend? And this is an open question to everyone, really. What would you recommend as a cherry compatible keyboard that I could use those keycaps on that isn't going to break the bank? I don't want to spend a lot of money.
So the one I'm using is the Durgod K320. It's a really, really nice keyboard, and you can get it in the retro PC beige color still. It's a 10 keyless, but I think they have a version that has the numpad if you still want that. Okay. What's really cool about it is that you can pop it open, and I think it's 2 resistors that you short while you're plugging it in, and you can reflash the keyboard firmware with QMK, which allows you to remap the keys and swap the Amiga and Alt location. So the Amiga keys can actually be against the space bar, because most QMK keyboards, or any keyboard that's reprogrammable at the keyboard firmware level, those are all like $200-300. Like, they're not cheap keyboards, but the Dear God can be reflashed with QMK, and then you can swap them at the firmware level, so you're not having a key remap software running on your desktop trying to fix that. And it just feels so much more like it's the tiniest thing, right? But having the Amiga keys adjacent to the spacebar just feels so much more right.
Mm-hmm. No, thanks for that. I'll look into that. Appreciate that. Seems a bit of a waste having a key cap set upstairs that I can't really use. That's the plan, is to use that with the Checkmate mini case. So
yeah, I love my Checkmate case. That is a tank. That is so well built.
Oh, the quality of the mini case is just out of this world. So well put together.
Yeah, I've been thinking of getting the mini one because Ronco came out with the Minimig ITX motherboards now. So
it's an ITX motherboard I've put in it. It's just a standard ITX boards with an i7. I think it's like a 5th generation or a 6th generation i7 processor on it. Nothing fancy. It's not got any fancy graphics. Or I'm completely undecided at this stage what I'm planning on doing with it. I might go down the route of maybe a Mister at some point, but at the moment, you know, PC platform base would seem the quickest and easiest way to go and cheapest. I picked up that board for, I think it was £40 or something, you know, complete with an i7, which was a bargain. You know, the processor alone was probably that.
Yeah,
I need to get something like that for something of that spec for a Sega Rally conversion. That's...
Do you hear that?
I can hear that. Yeah, we can hear that.
Yeah.
I'm going to put myself in mute. My daughter is being shouted at because she's not doing as she's told.
I mean, we're all used to Ollie on stream and him getting shouted at by Fiona. So, how's Fiona doing? Is she good?
She's good. Yeah, she's good.
Fantastic. She's had to
Probably
put up with me twice this year, so it's more than my wife would put up with me, to be honest.
You're an easy guest. You brought the beer with you. So.
Yeah. No, and I actually had the beer shipped ahead of me.
Yes. I mean, who does that?
Someone who doesn't want to deal with Irish, Northern Irish British customs. I didn't want to deal with that. These guys. All right, I think everybody's falling asleep, so we'll maybe think about wrapping this up. How did we all feel about this format? Oh, retard beers, Chucky Gang. You can send me retard beers anytime you like. What do we think of this format? I mean, I don't know what we. Oh, my camera just did something weird there. But what do we think of this format? I've just been watching this on. Like, I watched Ollie on the Ken Sprong channel, and I've watched some other channels that have this kind of format, and I've not seen anyone doing this in Retroland. And I just thought I'd like to try it, and and talk about the things that we have going on, and maybe it's not always going to be me, maybe it's not always going to be the same people or whatever, but just chatting about stuff and basically whinging about stuff, which is basically what Ken Sprong's channel is about, isn't it, Ollie?
Yeah. Well, you know what I think about it. He's like, I love these streams anyway. But yeah, I don't think like a lot of stuff in the retro world is very sort of formatted and segmented. It's kind of cool to have just a free chat.
Just get people on and talking about what they're working on this week and how they're getting on and all that sort of stuff. So I might try and do this, and maybe I don't know if I can manage it every Friday, but maybe every other Friday, and we can have a think about it.
Oh, like it unscripted. I mean, so I follow a few, not computing kind of retro channels. It's cars, and follow a few on there, and they're pretty unscripted, unpolished, and they're the best channels. They've no get fancy intros like Terriblefire and
come on, the intro is good. I spent a lot of time on that intro. And Ollie spent a lot of time on that music for somebody else completely, and then used it for completely. It was like a rejected piece of music for somebody else.
It was too, yeah. For CPU.
So I suppose the story of the intro on my channel though was, I was looking for a piece of music, and I said to my wife, what sort of channel music do I need for my intro? She was like, you need like the cheesiest, 80th, most 80s thing ever, Huey Lewis, this sort of thing, right? So I said that to Ollie, and he said, well, what about this? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty, that's spot on. And he's like, well, CPU, this guy we both know, he commissioned it, so I had to go and beg a CPU if I could use it, and then I just basically put some visuals to it, and it kind of worked. It's not that it was rejected CPUs, it just was not used. Okay.
Yeah.
It was unused.
He said he was approached by Disney.
He
said that last night.
And what they said was, Goni no data.
How?
Just Goni no. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think I'll call it a stream at that. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, everybody, for the chat. And maybe we'll do this again in different people. Maybe we'll do this again in 2 weeks' time. And anybody who's got any comments about the format, leave it in the description below. Thank you, everyone. Take care and have a good night.
Great. Later.